Well, hello and welcome to another TransForm Tuesday. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Products and Services here at Alpha Software. And today we're going to be going over some embedded business logic, as well as talking about quite a few other topics TransForm related. And I'll be here to answer your questions as well. So to get started, because I'm flying solo here today, I want to make sure that my sound and my video is coming through. So if somebody in the questions box could let me know whether or not that's it, then wonderful, that would be good. And it looks like it is. Okay, great, wonderful. So we weren't here last week, but I've got a few questions over the last couple of weeks, and they had to do more and more with what we call embedded business logic. So let me just scroll down here to slide number 181, and let's talk about that. Embedded business logic is the ability to take a certain amount of intelligence and put it right into the client side of the application as opposed to the server side of the application. So for example, based on questions that someone has asked, you might have embedded business logic that asks them to supply more information, or it may provide a calculation, or it may do a lookup, or it may do something. But the point is that all of this smarts, all of this intelligence takes place on the client side. And because it takes place on the client side, it requires a certain amount of programming, and we do that using the TransForm programming language. So I put together a fairly simple example today using just some simple calculations that we'll go over. And hopefully you guys from there will be able to extrapolate. So I like to say there are two kinds of people. There are people who can extrapolate from incomplete data, and there are people who did not get the joke. So that's that. Let me go ahead and fire up my iPhone, and we're going to take a look at this application that I built. Okay. And should be loading. Make sure everything's set up. Yep, there we go. Great. Okay, let's go to TransForm. There we go. Okay. So today I put together a really simple application, and the application basically just lets you find the area of two different types of shapes, whether it's a circle or a rectangle. So the first part of logic that we put in is the logic in which if I choose a shape, I'm going to click on rectangle, that it now asks me questions that are relevant to a rectangle. And we do that using if then. I'm going to show you how that works in a moment. But first, I'm going to show you how the application actually operates. So we're going to enter in the number for the first side. Let's say it's 50 units, maybe 50 centimeters. And the adjacent side, let's say that's 20. And I'm going to press the calculate button. And at the bottom, it tells me that I now have an area of 1,000. Now, let's say I chose a different type of shape. I'm clicking here, circle. You'll notice the first thing is that I've actually blanked out what my result was here because it doesn't apply to a circle. Instead, I need to enter in a radius, and it's asking me now a separate question for the radius. So I'm going to say, let's put in a radius, let's say of 9. And if I calculate that, it shows it as an area of roughly 254. I had it round off, and I'm going to show you how you do that in a moment. So what do we have here? Well, we have conditional questions, we have calculations, and we have a calculation that takes into account the answer to one of the questions. It applies the area for a circle if you've chosen the circle type, but it applies the area for a rectangle if you've chosen the rectangle type. Now, from there, of course, hopefully you can sort of imagine scenarios in which you may need to use this in your own projects. Let me show you, though, how I put this one together. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of mirroring here. And we're going to go right into Alpha TransForm Central. And I'm going to show you this form type. So this form has got just a couple of fields on it. It has a text field, which is always hidden. I'll get to why I need to do that in a moment. It has a button list up here, which lets us choose between circle and rectangle. And then I've got two fields for if they do choose rectangle. That's side 1 and side 2. Those are the ones we multiply together. And that's wrapped here in an if statement. So let me just go over that because I know we've got a couple of new people on today. This is called an if statement. To do an if statement, all I do is I choose the fields. In fact, I'm going to remove it here. Let me just go ahead and kill that if statement. And I'll kill the end if statement. Is I choose the fields that I want to conditionally show or hide. In this case, it's side 1 and side 2. And then up in here, and we're in the commands window, I say add a new command. And I'm going to scroll down to if. And there it is. And by default, the if expression is always true. That means always show these fields. But that's not what I want. Instead, what I want to say is shape, that's the name of my shape field, equals equals, that's the syntax we use here, rectangle. And I can go ahead and save that. Did I actually save that? I did. Okay, great. So now that's all set up. Great. So now when I'm in the tester, or let me just open up the app. I actually saw it a moment ago, so I won't bother. But if you choose rectangle, you're going to see these 2 fields. And if you choose circle, you're going to see this 1 field. All right, that's cool. I think everyone probably understands that. Down here, I have another control called HTML, and that's actually where I'm going to put the output. And so the output, so what I've done here for HTML is I put in just a regular HTML tag in which I've set the size and the weight. Oops, should be font dash weight, not 0 weight. And then I've put this weird thing in here, bracket field 1, close bracket. And that corresponds to this field here, this text field. So what that means is when I render this HTML on the page, I want you to take anything that's in this field 1 value and display it between these 2 p tags. And so this becomes our answer. Now, so the question is, if this is always hidden, how do I set the value of field 1? And the answer is we set that using TPL. So I'm going to show you how that's done. Let's go back to let me save this. We'll go back to my form. And I'm going to scroll down to Edit Custom Code. And you'll see I have a button here called Calculate. I'm going to go ahead and click on that button so you could see the code that's behind it. It's fairly simple code. This is the portion here that I wrote, and I'm going to blow it up on the screen a little bit so that it's easier to see. I didn't get too far. Here we go. So here's how this works. When I press this button, the first thing it's going to do is check to see whether or not my shape field contains the value rectangle. If it does, it's going to set field 1 equal to side 1 times side 2. All right. On the other hand, if shape is equal to circle, it's going to set field 1 equal to, now bear with me here, the rounded version, in other words, I'm going to round the answer, of radius times pi, also known as pi r squared. Okay, so I've got my pi r squared, and I didn't want, and because pi goes on forever, I didn't want my answer to go on forever, so I decided the number of decimal places that I wanted to have at the end. I chose 0 because I just thought it looked nicer, but I could have done like 1 or 2. Now let's choose 2. Show you that. Okay, you're with me so far. Right now, field 1 now has a number in it, right? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to concatenate some text to the beginning of that number. So I'm going to set field 1 equal to this text here called area of. I'm going to use this concatenate option, and I'm going to use this number. Now, it seems weird to be able to set a numeric field equal to a character field. Most programming languages wouldn't allow that, but you can do that here in TPL. We're not strict on type, so that's how you do it. So basically, all I've done is I've assigned out field 1 equal to that calculation plus area of. Just shrink back out of here so my interface looks normal. Oop, too far. Okay. So that when I click that button, it operates as I showed you a moment ago. Now, the other thing that I did was I changed the shape type. Oops, sorry. I didn't make any edit. Oh, no, I did make edits, so I'm going to continue editing. Let me save that. And I forget what I said here. And this is the reason I set this. When I switch from square to circle, I want to blank out my answer from the bottom because it doesn't make any sense. Don't show me an old answer. So all I do is I just set field 1 equal to quote, quote, nothing. So whenever I make a change to the shape type, it automatically clears out that field. So as a quick review, we ask the questions conditionally by using these if and end if blocks, which we get here in the command window by adding pluses. We do the calculation using TPL, and we clear the results using TPL. We've asked conditional questions based on whether or not, or we do conditional calculations based on whether or not they've chosen a circle or square. Again, we do that using calculations. So I hope so far this is all fairly clear to you guys. But I just wanted to give you that as an example because people were asking how to use it. So that's really it for my really simple example here. But there are some other things that I wanted to talk about today as well. First of all, we have a new version of TransForm, both the filler and TransForm Central coming out. Mostly this is going to be bug fixes and just making things run smoothly. But there are a couple of new features that you're going to find. Let me just show you one of them real quick. So for those of you who are on the one where we're talking about on-device data, I think you're going to find this to be a cool little feature. I'm going to go back over here. And here I am back in my app. And I now have a new menu choice called Other Actions. And if I click on Other Actions, it's going to tell me all this stuff about my on-device data. It can be updated, it can be deleted, and it could just tell me what's there. It shows me the number of fields, number of files, and the number of databases. So that's just a little fun thing that you can use. Now, if you're having an issue with some of your TPL running in the current version, there are some bugs that we ended up fixing, which is why I believe I'm using the test version of TransForm Filler. And I want to show you how you can use the test version as well if you're interested. If you want to start using and playing around with new features before they come out, I'll show you how to do it. The very first thing you want to do is if you have any unsaved work, you want to go ahead and save that work, because when you use the new version, you just want to make sure nothing has gone wrong. So don't lose your work. So go ahead and upload, which I'm going to do right now. That's 17 records, but they're not very big, so that shouldn't take too long. Okay, great. I'm going to go here now into the help system, and I'm going to say show table of contents. Now you might be familiar with this is how I turn on the debugger, but when I show the table of contents, there is two things of interest. One is called info. Info tells me all kinds of things, who the current user is, what account I'm logged into. If you have multiple accounts, it's actually pretty useful. Some things when things were downloaded. Okay. But the other thing it shows you, actually is up here at the top, sorry, at the table of contents is the version. So I am actually on this newer version, 4.9.7, I believe. But if I scroll down here for tools for support, we're going to see, okay. You see here in this grayed out area, I have current instant update channel. Right now it has been set to test. And so even though this looks like it's grayed out, you can actually switch between those two. Once, however, you do switch to the test channel, you're going to need to log out of the app and then log back in, or better yet, close the app and then open it again. Now, you'd think to go from test back to production, the best way to do it would just be to return here, show the table of contents, go back down to these tools for support, and this time click the production button to get you from test back to production. But actually, we find that it's safer not to do it that way. Instead, you're just better off, again, save all your work first, but actually deleting the app off of your phone and then reinstalling it. Make sure that it gets really back to the purest production thing. So you can use the button back and forth, but the safest way is to uninstall and reinstall if you want to switch back to production. Right now I have the debugger on. You see I can show it and I can hide it. I've shown how to do that before, but I just want to remind people that that's how you get it. You get it right here in this help system. Okay, so that was for the new version. The other thing that's kind of new is our video library for the TransForm Tuesday webinars. And actually, let me close out my phone because it's in the way. Okay, stop. And let's pop over to, I've got it open here, the TransForm Tuesday video list. Now, most of you know the link to this. It is simply alphasoftware.com/transform-tuesday-video-list. And up until Monday, we had most of the titles here, but we had simply the titles. So you'd have to know, what took place on the 11th of December. We didn't actually have any descriptions. In the meantime, what we've done is we have Scott Allen, one of our people who works here, has gone through and he's watched every single one of these videos and he's taken notes. So if you want to see what's going on in a particular session, you can come here to this page and do a find for it. For example, if you wanted to use the Ajax get command at 8 minutes 20 seconds in this video, you can find it. And keep in mind, this is a completely searchable. So don't use this, just hit Control F or Command F on your keyboard. And so if I wanted to type in, say, debugger, that was one of my examples, you'll see that I've got 4 matches. So hopefully this will make it easier to go looking through this archive of videos for the stuff that you're looking for. All right, what else have I got? I got a question this week, and this is a problem that people run into, and it's what I call the case of the disappearing field. It doesn't really disappear, but I'll show you what's going on with that. Imagine, if you will, you have got a brand new form. So I'm going to create a new one, add blank, and I'm going to start from scratch. And I'm just going to call this one missing fields. Okay. Form ID, we'll just call it missing. And I'm going to put in a first name, city, state, country. Okay, so that's a really simple form. I'm going to go ahead and click to save changes. And there they are. And now I'm going to open up my phone. Okay. And I'm going to go back into TransForm. And so the first thing is when I add a form, right, you'll see my list isn't here. It doesn't, my new one doesn't appear here, my one called missing. I need to actually refresh when I add a new form. That's something that people forget, but now here it is. It should be down here under missing fields. There it is. I'm going to tap on missing fields. And there's first name. I'll put in my first name, Dave. And we'll say city is Burlington. And it's in Massachusetts. And USA for the country. All right. So that's done. That's uploaded. I'm going to now close down the phone. And we're going to go into Management Console. And I'm going to, it says no forms to download, so I'm going to choose the type of form that I want. And if you take a look, hey, where is my missing? Where's my form? It's missing, you'd say. Where's that missing form? It's missing. Down here, you want to actually click this refresh button because this refreshes the list of the forms that you see. And there it is. There's my missing fields. Okay. And there's my app. There it is. First name, city, state, and country. Okay, so here's the scenario that we had run into. A person had built a form, collected some data, and then realized, you know what, I'm missing a field. Well, no big deal. I'll just go to the designer and I'll choose my field and I'll say, double click on it, and I'll add in a field now for last name. And we'll call this one last name. And we're just going to go ahead and save that. I've clicked to save changes. I'm going to push this back up to my phone. So let me open up my phone so you can see. I'm going to add a form. I'm going to refresh so that I get the latest version of that form. I'm going to tap on missing fields. And there's my last name field. So here I'm going to just say McCormick. And let's go with Dion's first name. We'll go Dion for first name. So here's another record I've entered. And this time I've got a last name field. The other one was missing a last name field. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit done and I'm going to upload that. Okay. Now, what you would expect when I came back here to, let me close off my phone so it's not in the way. When I came back here to Management Console and I refreshed, okay, there's the other instance of my form. So this one has got, Dave and the rest of it, and here's my other one. But hey, what the heck happened to my last name field? It's missing. Well, the data isn't missing. It's actually there in the database. And this is something that you need to know. When you refresh your form type, that's also refreshing the definition behind it. So if you do change fields, it's very important when you're back here in the management console in the types of forms to do a refresh right there. Now that I've done a refresh, when I click on it, there's the last name field. It's back. So I just wanted to sort of explain in principle how that's all working. When you refresh, you're updating not the data here, you're updating actually the definition. In other words, which fields are included. So you have to make sure that you actually do click that refresh button if you add fields and you want to come in and do that. All right, let's see what else I've got on the list for today. I had someone ask today, when it comes to these HTML types, control types, like I have in my HTML tests one, I have this control, an HTML control. And you see I have a P tag and I've got font size and font weight, and it all works fine and displays fine on the phone. But someone had tried putting in other tags, for example, and I had actually done an example before with not a BR tag, but with an HR tag to put in a horizontal rule. But the thing is that for security reasons, we're beginning to lock down what you can actually put in these HTML controls to fairly simple HTML. And there were some reasons for that. There's some ways that malicious things could be injected and data could be lost. So we're trying to be pretty careful about that. But let me just show you top level, and I'm going to document these for real. The ones that you are allowed to use. You are allowed to use the P tag and bold and italics, and you can use div. So as a result of you being able to use div, if you wanted to put in a horizontal line, you could create a div control and then set like the bottom border to something, and you would get the same effect as if you had done an HR. We've also put back support for tables. So if you want to use tables, you're allowed to do that in the HTML control as well. This will be documented officially shortly, but just so you know, this is what you're allowed to use right now in HTML. What else have I got here? There's some new sample templates. So I'm going to go ahead and, oops, done. I'm going to create a new form type. This time I'm going to choose from a template. And you'll see our list is now beginning to grow. So one of the new ones that we have here is this toolbox talks. Toolbox talks in the manufacturing industry, or when someone actually walks around and it's sort of a policy. It's a way of conducting safety audits, basically. So I'm going to choose this one here, copy selected. I'm going to show you what's in it. So the Toolbox Talks is an informal group that discusses particular safety issues. And usually it's held by a manager. And what they'll do is they'll keep track of attendees, and the attendees themselves can sort of sign that they attended there on the form. And then it's just the manager to say what the topic was, where it took place, when it took place, and so on. So that's one of the new ones that are in there. A few of the other new ones, I think we have some for oil and gas. If not, we will soon. There's oil and gas. There's a well inspection report. There's a new OSHA self-inspection. Gemba walk is also new. That's more of a quality control as well as safety sort of manage, again, for construction. And we have some others as well. If any of you have ideas that you would like to see for maybe a form that you would like, that you think we use all the time, it would be useful, by all means send an email to tfservice@alphasoftware.com, and we would be happy to add it for you to this list. Okay, and the last thing I wanted to talk about today was the use of SVG. So SVG, as you can see on my last slide, is one of the supported tags that are allowed in your HTML objects. But SVG also plays another role in the TransForm Central interface, and that is that if you want to assign a custom icon for your app, like we've done here, you set that using an SVG icon. So let's pop over here and I'll show you where that's done. So once you're in here, you go into Advanced Features, and then it's Set Color and Icon. You're going to click on that button, And you'll see this red stripe. We've selected that here. That must be this one here. And then here is the icon. Now I could have selected an icon from here. If I just click on it, it will replace what's there. Let me just, I'll do it because I can always cancel, but let's grab that one. And now that becomes, if I save that, the light bulb becomes the icon. Now, if you want to find your own SVG icons, my suggestion is to go over here to a website called flaticon.com. They have lots of royalty-free SVG icons that you can use. The only caveat is that when you get the source code for the SVG and you paste it into TransForm, so let me pop back to TransForm, you do need to set the maximum width of it to no more than 50 pixels. Oh, here I am. And let's see if I can see that here. Okay. I guess if it's one of these, you don't actually see the code up in here. But up in here, you do need to set it to 50 pixels. If you have it wider than 50 pixels on some phones, it's going to display very oddly, and it's not going to look good in the form filler. All right, so that's it for things that I wanted to talk about today. Oh, so the question was, can you search the list of videos? So I'm ready here to take questions. Go ahead and type those questions into the GoToWebinar control panel. And the first question is, can you search the videos by the new content or by the new content text that we've all inserted? And the answer is yes. But don't do it using this search box here. You want to use your browser's own search for this. So, find on a Mac, it's Apple F. I believe it's Control F for a PC. And it will look through all of these things here, like I did the example before with a debugger. Okay, are there any other questions? Let me take a look through this list. Doesn't look like it. Someone was asking for which webinar demoed extraction of fields from an existing PDF. Ah, okay. That demo, it might have been TransForm Tuesday, but I'm pretty sure that was a Wednesday webinar because it was a circumstance in which we're using both Alpha Anywhere and TransForm together. But you know what, let's just do a quick search for PDF and see if we can find something here. And if not, I would be happy to get back to you because it's a really interesting topic that people have been asking about. And that is the ability to take a PDF document and automatically turn it into a TransForm form by reading what the fields are in that PDF document. Let's see, I don't have any searches at all, any results at all for PDFs. So, create a PDF report from a form instance, pre-fill data. You might take a look at this one from the 26th of March. I believe that was the one we did with Nikos. And that's the only one that I see. If you send an email into tfservice at alphasoftware.com, I can talk to Dion, who does the Wednesday webinar, and we'll see if we can track that down as well. Speaking of which, for the Wednesday webinars, I know a lot of you are also Alpha Anywhere people. We are also going through that collection of Alpha Anywhere videos, and at the same point, we will also be documenting out what you will find in those as well, just to let you know. All right, so that looks like it. Hey, thank you everyone for showing up. Thank you for asking questions. If you do have any further questions, go ahead and send an email out to tfservice@alphasoftware.com. And I'll be happy to get back to you. It's actually monitored by a team of people here, and we're here to answer your questions. So thanks again, and I hope to see you next Tuesday. Take care and goodbye.